This is slide 2 of our 50s Cold War unit on U.S. support for what's going on in Europe specifically. And we will start with by talking about something known as the containment policy. It was clear that the United States would not be able to wipe out communism. So the next best option is to contain it from spreading any further than it already had. The Soviet Union wanted, it was very clear, wanted to take over as many other countries as they could, convert them to communism. The United States' goal is going to be to contain it from spreading any further than it already has. That will be the official position of the United States, and that position will be summed up in what's known as the Truman Doctrine. Named after President Harry Truman at the time. And the Truman Doctrine will simply say that the United States will support any people who are willing to stand up and resist communism. So if you're willing to stand up and fight off communism, the United States is going to stand with you. And the first place that will get put into practice or to get challenged, if you will, is in Greece and Turkey. In southern Europe and getting toward the Middle East there, the Mediterranean area, communism is threatening to spread. That's because Greece and Turkey's economies are horrible, as are most of the economies of Western Europe. But Greece and Turkey are worse than any of them. And the real threat of communism, we discover, is not really from the Soviet Union moving in. The real threat is from within the country. When economies are terrible, people look for somebody to blame, and they blame the government in charge. And these are democratic governments in charge. So communist parties within those countries are threatening to take over. So the easiest thing we can do to help stop the spread of communism is get countries' economies up and running again after the war. Truman will ask Congress to allocate $400 million, $400 million with an M, to help get the economies of Greece and Turkey back up and running again. And it works. It primes the pump, gets the economy running again, and once the economy is strong, people don't hate the government anymore. They've got jobs, they're making money, all is good and well. So what worked so well in Greece and Turkey gets applied to all of Western Europe in what comes to be known as the Marshall Plan. This is named after former Army Chief of Staff, General George C. Marshall. He was basically Roosevelt's right-hand man during the war, and he will become Secretary of State after the war. Marshall will plan on helping Western European countries, Northern European and Western European countries, by giving them lots and lots of money. The Marshall Plan called for spending $12.7 billion. $12.7 billion with a B, dollars in just about 4 years, maybe a little more, just over 4 years. That money was going to go to 16 different countries. Here you see the little windmill here. Whatever the weather, we must move together. And those are all the flags of the countries that would get Marshall Plan money. And the weather vane here, driving it all, is the U.S. flag. Okay? So these are Marshall Plan countries. And it would work. None of those 16 countries that got money from the United States fell to communism. We basically bought democracy for Western Europe until it was up and running. Now that may seem like a lot of money, and it is, $12.7 billion. But ultimately, the United States will make money on this deal. Because who is the leading manufacturing nation in the world at this time? The United States is. We're the only one virtually untouched by the war. We're building more stuff than any other country in the world. And all that machinery, all those goods that those countries that get Marshall Plan money need to get their economies up and running, guess who they're going to buy it from? That's right, the United States. So all that money we loaned out to those countries, they're going to turn around and give it right back to us as they buy the goods that we're making and they need. So yes, we're giving away lots of money, but we're going to make money on the deal because they're giving it back to us when they buy our goods. And then when their economies get going, they're going to keep buying goods from us. So, last thing here. Nice short slide for you here, but last thing. Let's talk, whoops, get back on my highlighter. There we go. Let's talk about Israel. In May of 1948, the United States said, you know, all those Jews that survived the Holocaust in Europe, we can't ask them to go back home, you know, to go back where you were. That would just be cruel. Asking them to return to the place where all the death and the destruction happened. So instead, the United States will support the establishment of an independent nation known as Israel. And there you see the Israeli flag there with the Jewish Star of David in the middle. There's the Israeli flag. Now, we set up a country for them, but you can't just, you know, create land from somewhere. So instead, we take land from the British-controlled Palestine in the Middle East. Land that used to be called Palestine. We are going to take land from Palestine, and there's the Palestinian flag, and we're going to use it to create a new country, Israel. The Jews will be thrilled. They will have their homeland and their holy city of Jerusalem back. Now, who's going to be understandably a little peeved by all of this? The Palestinians, because it's their land that we're taking to create Israel. So this is the beginning, well, not really the beginning, it's the re-beginning of the arguments between the Israelis and the Palestinians. The United States will side with Israel. We helped create the country, so we're going to stand by them. That's going to put us at odds with all of the oil-producing countries in the Middle East. And we're going to pay for that later on, as you can imagine. So anyway, short slide for you. U.S. support.